now on to our final race of the day, which arguably is one of the main events, one of the longest races we've had today, and it is for the epic 45-minute Club Sport Trophy race. And look at the size of that grid. It is essentially... we expect it to be, I think, 40 plus, but it's actually turned out to be 37. We had a couple of withdrawals, I think, sadly, but 37 cars are set to race here for 45 minutes. It is a mandatory pit stop race. You can either have a solo effort for the whole 45, or you can share the drive between two drivers. And the cars are set into 1 to 5 classes by true power to weight ratio. Now, what does that mean? That means that essentially when the cars are put on the dyno, rather than just having anyone jump into the car and set the power to weight ratio, the dyno is done with the driver in the car in full race kit with full consumables in it, such as fluids like oil and coolant and water and everything else in there, to give you pretty much the best accurate representation of what the power to weight ratio is going to be of that car when it's out on track racing. And that means when it gets allocated into a class, it gets allocated into pretty much the right class as accurately as possible. So we've got 5 classes here with a maximum power to weight ratio in the top class, 235 brake horsepower per tonne, and 2 of those cars are on the front row of the grid. Now, I have got starting drivers for this one because we have got some crews with 2 cars. There's lots of variety here, lots of cars to get through. So if they head off onto their formation lap, I think they should have 2 formation laps here because, of course, again, they will qualify this morning out in the dry conditions. As they do that, there should be plenty of time for us to reel off this mammoth 37-car grid as to who's where and who's driving what and who should be starting what car when they get out there for this first race, for this first ever race for the Clubsport Trophy, the first visit at all to Snetterton. So, from the top, let's take a look at the grid then for our final race of the weekend, the BRSCC Clubsport Trophy. So, here we go. Pole position is going to be Ollie Sandways, the local favourite in his Toyota MR2 Super GT. He starts on pole in Class A. Alongside him is the David May and Mark Skeets Nissan 370Z. That starts on the front row alongside in second place. Then in the top invitation class car, which is one of the 7 or 8 Fiesta Championship ST240 class cars. That could be Lucas is on third on the grid. Alongside him is the BMW 328i of Tom Stanway. He is on pole position for Class B in 4th overall. Jamie White and his Fiesta ST180 comes next in 5th. And it's the car we've seen in track attack a couple of times today. That's the David Sheed and Malcolm Edison BMW starting 6th. But it's the John Cooper and David Nye number 88 Fiesta ST180 that starts in 7th place, and then in 8th place on the grid it's Richard Clark in car number 66 in his Renault Clio. Quick start drivers for those. In fact, actually quickly, I'll tell you that I believe it should be, let's quickly look at my text. So I believe it is David May starting the Nissan 370Z, David Sheed should start the BMW, and I think it's going to be John Cooper starting the Fiesta. So the Kellets come next, Alistair and William, and it will be Alistair Kellett who starts that car in car 52. Rowan Lundy then comes next, solo in his Toyota Celica. Row 6 is then Stuart Robbins and Simon Horrobin, with Stuart Robbins starting the 100 car, another Fiesta ST180. Dominic Bush in his ST180 comes next in 12th on the grid. But it's Matthew Higginson in his Honda Civic FN2 Type R next from Peter Jokinen, and he is in his Mini Cooper. First appearance he's had since the first ever Club Sport race at Brands Hatch in 2019. Marco Ricci in another ST180 comes next in 15th on the grid. And then Stuart Donovan, another regular for Club Sport Trophy, and his 7 Motorsports Toyota Celica starts in 16th on the grid. Next comes Sam McKee and Daryl Bennett. That's cars going to be started with Daryl Bennett in car 361, the BMW 3 Series. But it's Mark Court and Colin Newbold, former Fiesta Championship rivals, now teaming up in the Honda Integra Type R DC5, and that car's going to be started by Colin Newbold. Then it's Michael Heath and Justin Roberts, who have been regulars in STXR Challenge, but of course for this race now it's moving into a Honda Civic for this race, and it's going to be in car number 19, and that car being, sorry, car number 4, that car being started by Michael Heath. To round up the top 20, Feroz Billamoria in his Mini Cooper on the 10th row of the grid. Then it's John Wyatt in car number 20, in 21st position in his Mini Cooper S. 22nd on the grid, another Honda Civic Type R with James Butcher at the wheel. Then next is 23rd on the grid is Mazda MX-5 Mark III of Stuart Humphrey. And it's Richard Daniels and Lewis Judd in their Ford Fiesta Mark IV. Starting that car in car number 42 is Richard Daniels. And still they come. We've got the Poulton and Mills car. That is Poulton and Mills in their Mini Cooper S. Starting that car is going to be in car 155, Matt Mills. We then have alongside them Richard Sutherland in his BMW Compact Cup car. Lewis Field in the Renault Clio, and the Holland in the Mazda MX-5 come next on row 14. Row 15 is Philip Adcock and Waters. I should have the entries in front of me here for a second, shouldn't I? Adcock and Waters. Starting that car in car 129 is Philip Adcock. It's then, it says there, 181 May and Skeet. That's not quite right. That's No, that shouldn't be right. That's a different car on there, so I'll have to work out who that is in a second, but that should be a different car on row 15. The Keith Isett and Kevin Fulbrook Mini Clubman. No, I didn't stumble. That is a Mini Clubman, 31st on the grid. And starting that car is going to be Keith Isett. But it's the Claydens, I think Reese and Gareth Clayden in car 46. And it's going to be, doesn't tell me who's starting that car yet. It's going to be the Claydens in 32nd position on the grid. And the final 5 cars we had are Edward Raprasia in his BMW 116, Stephen Somerville in his BMW Compact Cup car, the Butterworths, Craig and Gary Butterworth in their Renault Clio, with Craig Butterworth starting that car, and David Thomas and his Toyota MR2 Mark 1. At the back of the grid, last but by no means least, Mark Stewart in car number 43. He will start that car from the back of the grid in another BMW 116. And breathe. That was quite a few cars to get through, but quite a big grid, of course, here for this final race of the weekend. So just to confirm the car that I thought it might have been, I think it's Toby Hotston in the Ford Fiesta ST180. It's a different spec ST180 car to the ones from the Fiesta Championship. I think he's the one that's starting in 31st. There's been a bit of an error, I think, on the timing sheets. So there will be a specific pit window for the cars to come into. Everyone has to make a pit stop within that window to do so. The minimum pit stop time is 2 minutes. So from pit in to pit out, it has to be at least 2 minutes to make sure pit stop is a legal one. Anyone who pits outside the pit window, it will not be counted as their mandatory pit stop. They have to come back in again to serve one. If a driver doesn't serve their pit stop at all within that race, if they forget for whatever reason, then they'll be essentially, I think, excluded from the results, because that's part of the regulations on that side. Also, if a pit stop is less than 2 minutes, if it's too quick from pit in to pit out, a time penalty, or either a time penalty or a stop-go penalty can be applied, and it's for the length of the time of which it's been short by. Whoa! Ollie Samways, the pole position man, has had a spin on the exit of Nelson as everyone starts to check up to allow him to regain his position. That was not a precedent for the rest of the race, but Ollie Samways getting a bit of a fright there from the pole position. Almost lost our pole position car, but Ollie manages to get it back onto the road safely enough to resume his position at the head of the field. So that would have woken him up, won't it? So round onto the grid they come then, as they head around onto the right-hander at the bomb hole. But I was explaining just what that happened, is that if any driver or any car has a pit stop which from pit in to pit out is less than 2 minutes, they have to then have a time penalty or a stop-go penalty, if I'm correct, which is for the duration of the time it's short by. So, for example, if the total time of the pit stop is put at 1 minute 55, they have to come in and have a stop going for 5 seconds to make up those 5 seconds that they were short by from their pit stop time when they went back out again. So as the race goes on, if there are any penalties, they will come up on the screen and we'll confirm who they are and for how long they're for, based on how short their pit stop might have been. So everyone getting back around to the grid. It will be a standing start for the record as well. It won't be a rolling start like other kind of endurance type races, but quite a nice variety at the front of the field. We've got, of course, a Toyota MR2 with its mid-engine rear-wheel drive layout, the front-engine rear-wheel drive layout of the Nissan 370Z. And we have the front-wheel drive, but very powerful, Ford Fiesta ST180 with Zachary Lucas at the wheel, and Tom Stanway in his front-engine rear-wheel drive BMW with its sort of super touring-esque body kit on it there, which is quite a nice-looking car, actually. And that car starting from fourth on the grid. He and the Sheeden Edison BMW had a great battle for the lead at Silverstone, and while Tom Stanway did take the victory on the road, it was deemed that there was a time penalty given to Tom Stanway, sadly, which gave the victory to the Sheeden Edison BMW. We should note as well that whilst we have the Fiestas here, none of them are eligible to become overall winners. So if you get a Fiesta that wins the race, they won't be classified as the overall winner, but they will be the winner on the road. So the actual winner of the race will be any car in one of the 5 classes within the class structure of Clubsport Trophy. All that should become clear by the time we get towards the end of the race, but until then, the last couple of cars get into position, and we are all set for the first ever race at Snetterton for the BRSCC Clubsport Trophy. It's a Toyota MR2 and a Nissan 370Z on the front row of the grid. Who's going to win the sprint down towards Ricci's corner for the final time today? Lights up and lights out. We are underway for the Clubsport Trophy. Decent start from the front row from the main ski 3 Nissan 370Z. They all pour off the line together, all 37 of them in one big group down towards the first corner. The 2 BMWs at the back also making up the tail of the field, but it is the Nissan who leads into turn 1 for the first time. it should be, I think, as they come back through, the Toyota in second place. There's the David Thomas Toyota MR2 Mark 1 to MR2 towards the back of the field, at the front of the field as well as they turn their way through. There's also the Mini Clubman as well. Ollie Sandway's exit stage right, so unfortunately his spin at the complex wasn't just a one-off, and he's gone off the road in some rather tricky conditions. He's now dropped down to, I think, below the top 10 it seems, so he's got some work to do now. He's behind Dominic Bush in their Fiesta ST180, and what's happened there? There was a bit of a stack up there. Something's happened in the background. One car's been involved with car number 90. That's the Jamie White Fiesta. I think someone's had a spin, and Jamie White's collected him and possibly had some kind of an incident. It's behind the barriers, so couldn't quite see exactly who was involved. I think also the other Fiesta, which I think there's another Fiesta in there involved, which was the John Cooper and David Nye car, and also look, the Tom Stanway BMW is struggling and possibly pulling off the road out of the race early on. Is that possible suspension or steering damage for that car? Either way, the number 95 BMW that was contending for the lead at Silverstone last time out in the Clubsport Trophy, sadly looks as though it's got damage to the right front, which might well put it out of the race. That's a real shame. That's one of the not have too many favourites. It's one of my sort of favourite cars in the field in many cases, and that car, I'm afraid, is having one or two problems. I think it's possibly had been collected on the right front. That right front sitting down a bit with some damage to either the suspension or the tyre, or something else has happened to that car. But sadly, Tom Stanway will limp round back to the pits, and I'm afraid he's going to be out of this race straight away. You can see the safety car's also been scrambled as well out of my commentary box window, which suggests that we're going to get, just before the end of this first lap has even been completed, we will have the field under safety car conditions as they make their way out of the right-hander at Williams. And I can see out of the window as well, and on the screen you can see now too, safety car has indeed been deployed. So the incident there for the opening lap, it seems to have caught out two cars at least, which was the Jamie White number 94 Fiesta and the number 95 BMW that started on the second row of the grid. And that was the BMW 328 of Tom Stanway. So unfortunate for those two cars that have come to an early end. What it does mean now, the result of that is that for all of that, how it's shaken out is that the May and Skeets Nissan 370Z leads the way from a trio of Ford Fiesta ST180s that are still going. It's Zachary Lucas in second place, the Kellets in third, and then the Stuart Robbins and Simon Horrobin car in fourth position. So those cars are still continuing on, and it was almost as if it was pretty strange watching the cars on the angle that we had, because everyone started braking and started really backing up, and it looks as though something had happened in between, and that was of course the reason for everyone having to back up, and the fact that Jamie White's car was stationary in the road. So unfortunate situation for both cars to be out at this early stage before the end of the first lap, but maybe possibly a consequence of the very tricky conditions out there, which have been very tough. And Clubsport has run in wet conditions before, because they had it at Croft, of course, as they were the last day there when they were part of also that experiencing those very wet and damp conditions in North Yorkshire. The race at Silverstone, thankfully, was bone dry, so it was quite fast running for all involved. But we now get to at least take stock a little bit here to see if we can just sort of see where everyone is now that they've all shaken out. The Ollie Sandway's Toyota is still in the mix, but he's just outside the top 10 by the looks of it. And just there we can see the Marco Ricci Fiesta. There's Jamie White's car that's come to a stop on the just on the approach towards the left-hander at Palmer's. So unfortunately, that's his race done before it even really got going, sadly. He lasted about 2.5 corners. So everyone now forms up behind the runyourfleet.com Jaguar XF Sport Brake safety car. And it is, we say, the main Skeets Nissan who leads the way. So let's just see how that all shook out after those first couple of incidents. So May and Skeets lead the way in the Nissan. It is then it's actually a quartet of Fiesta Championship ST180 turbos, with the Zachary Lucas number 111 car in second place at the moment. Then the Kellets, Alistair and William in third position. Fourth place, the currently Stuart Robbins is at the wheel with Simon Horrobin in that number 100 car. And then Dominic Bush in fifth position, who is in that car solo. Then the next kind of car that can count towards an actual Clubsport Trophy victory is the Matt Higginson Honda Civic Type R, car number 183. Next in the order is the Petty Jokinen Mini Cooper, car number 85 in 7th overall. Then we've got the Marco Ricci Ford Fiesta ST180 in 8th position. Ollie Sandways from pole is down to 9th. So he's essentially outside the invitation class cars, 4th in the Clubsport Trophy order. And then rounding out the top 10 overall is the Firoz Bilamoria number 27 Mini Cooper S around the top 10. Next coming is the 11th place car, which is the Heath and Roberts Honda Civic. 12th place for Stuart Donovan in the 112 Celica, and its teammate Rowan Lundy just behind him in 13th place, just gone through the shot. Then we've got James Butcher's Honda Civic in 14th place, and then in 15th place the Richard Clark Ford Fiesta, car number 66. 16th place currently is going to be Stuart Humphrey in his Mazda MX-5. Lewis Field is 17th in the Renault Clio, 18th for Colin Newbold and Mark Court in their Honda Integrity Type R DC5. And rounding out the top 20, we have Daniels and Judd in their Ford Fiesta Mark IV. And then in 20th place, despite starting towards the back of the grid in... Where were they at the back of the grid then? That was 33rd on the grid, was Edward Prager in his BMW 116i. And I know he said before to me in conversations that he has a bit of lack of power in that car, but regardless of that, it's how you use the power, and he's already up to 20th position from the back of the grid. 13 places made up on the first lap, which is pretty thrilling itself, but showing actually he's made up 11 places. It looks like he started in 31st position by the looks of it. So impressive stuff from Edward Prager to move the 40 racing BMW up so far up the grid. One car that really lost out, and I wonder if he was possibly involved in what happened with the Tom Stanway car and also with the Jamie White Fiesta, maybe, was the Sheed Edison BMW, because they have tumbled down the order from what was a start around about the first few rows. Where did they qualify? Just to double check that. They qualified in 6th position. But they're now down the order in 21st, so they've lost 15 places on that opening lap. So whatever happened to them, whether they just the rear-wheel drive and the BMW got away from them and sort of spinning around, but unfortunately it seems to have caught out, as I mentioned, not just whatever happened in that sequence exiting the Wilson hairpin before Palmer's, seems to have caught out, as I said, not just the Jamie White Fiesta, but the Tom Stanway BMW as well, sadly. So I'll just see if there's anyone else who's been affected by that as well. Yeah, the Cooper and Nye Fiesta also is in that too, so the Car 88 also. It's just not really been the weekend for John Cooper, has it really? It's been quite a tough one. We've had mechanical problems in the first 2 races of the Fiesta Championship. He made the finish in race 3, and then unfortunately, just only last 2 corners before his race is over again in the Club Sport race. So again, you quite want to see the back of Snetterton quite quickly, I think, after this weekend. But 3 cars out of the race, sadly. Still 30, we should have 37 start, but 34 actually took the start here by the looks of things. So 31 cars are still running here at Snetterton. A couple of cars just taking a slightly wider line to try and find some more water on their tyres. There's Ollie Samways in the Toyota MR2. Just behind him, there is Feroz Bilamoria. Made his debut in the Club Sport Trophy last time at Silverstone. Good to have them back again. And it's nice to see in the Club Sport Trophy that we're not just getting drivers who are part of other championships that are already racing on the same weekend, like any given weekend, whether it's a Mazda MX-5 or a BMW Compact Cup car or a Fiesta or an STXR Challenge car, whatever else it might be. But we're also getting drivers who are coming through that are becoming regulars in the series. So you've got cars like the main Skeets Nissan 370Z has been around for a few times, the Tom Stanway BMW, Sheed Edison and their BMW as well, Ollie Samways in the Toyota MR2, and drivers that you see for the first time but then start to come back more and more, which is great to see. And it's nice to see some regulars that are popping up, are more dedicated to Club Sport Trophy in many cases than any other championship on the BRSCC roster. Don't forget, next weekend we have a slightly almost slightly longer and slightly bigger version of this next Saturday here at Snetterton, which will be live streamed as well. It's the first ever BRSCC Super Sport Endurance Cup race, and that's going to be 100 minutes around the Snetterton 300 circuit. 6 classes with a maximum power to weight ratio of 350 brake horsepower per tonne. A maximum of 3 driver lineup, 3 drivers per car is allowed. Also refueling as well as pit stops or mandatory pit stops is also permitted as well. And that for an entry fee of just a £5 under £600, £595. If you're watching and thinking, I've got a race car free, I've got a weekend spare, I might give it a go and see if I want to give it a try, do be sure to head to the website, you know where it is, brscc.co.uk, and see if you can get yourself involved or even get in touch with the BRSCC office this week. And there will be places on the grid, I'm sure, to fit you in alongside the entry that we already have. So there is Jamie White's car being recovered on the back of the quite fantastic looking low loader. I've never seen that before with a proper extending sort of loading platform. That's fantastic to see. That's not quite fantastic to see, of course, with Tom Stanway, whose car is now heading back to the paddock on the back of said low loader, which is unfortunate, but that's, as the phrase goes, that's motorsport. So these things do happen, unfortunately. Tom Stanley will have to come back next time at the next Clubsport Trophy race in order to try and recover himself for hopefully another strong result. So the car's then still underneath the runyourfleet.com Jaguar XF Sport Brake safety car. It's still on board, so we've still got some time to recover these cars. I think probably at least I'd say another lap, maybe two. And we're starting to get into the point where we have the pit window open very shortly. I think the pit window will probably open, by the looks of it, I think at the 15-minute mark, and probably will be open for 15 minutes, I think, and then we'll close again when there's 15 minutes left in the race. So it will open at 15 minutes into the race, and we'll probably close at half an hour into the race. So it gives them that short window to be able to go ahead and make those stops. And the strategy will be which team decide to pit early, if they've got possibly a fast driver that wants to jump in for the majority of the race, or if there's the fast driver already in the car to begin with, if they start to pit towards the end of the pit window, stay out as long as possible. The kind of neutraliser is the fact that everyone is now behind the safety car means that really gaining or losing any time, really. It's all kind of a case of everyone's in the same position, and the field is essentially frozen. So where you are at the moment is where you are in the field. They don't turn their way out of Murray's now back onto the pit straight. The safety car brings them past my commentary box window. And some of the cars just keeping their tyres warmed up and weaving from side to side. It's still 18 degrees out there, which is relatively mild and relatively decent enough temperature for the day it is. But a bit of encouragement on the pit roof from some of the team personnel. You see the variety. There's BMWs, Minis, Ford Fiestas. They've got the Toyota MR2s in there, Mazda MX-5s. If it was a Mazda MX-5 Championship weekend, there would be a few of those cars in the field. But it's nice that you get some unique machines on the grid as well. Of course, we've got the Mini Clubman, being driven by Keith Isaac and Kevin Fulbrook. We've also got the Nissan 370Z, the Toyota MR2, the Super GT version. There's the Mini Clubman there, the blue and black machine. It's a pair of BMW 116s with the large rear wings on the back. There's the Sam McKean Darrell Bennett, number 361 BMW 3 Series. And he's at the back of the field in 31st position. Excuse me. And now as they come through the hairpin at Wilson's, the field will start to continue to form up here. And hopefully, I think, because to be fair, the recovery crews here at Snetterton have been fantastic in terms of getting things together and quickly scooping up the cars that have been involved in any incidents. And I think, to be fair, the driving standards, for the most part, have been pretty decent so far this week. And we've hardly had the need for the safety car. So I think it'll be the third time I think we've had it, if not the second time, because the first time we had it yesterday was right at the start of the weekend for the first City Car Cup race, where we had Andrew Dyer off into the barriers at the Brundle Nelson complex, and the safety car came out to punch the field back up again. So safety car's not really had too much to do, but when it has been out, it's been pretty efficient to do so. And once again, supplied by runyourfleet.com, so big thank you to them for all their support and all their generosity in donating the use of this Jaguar safety car throughout the season. Of course, wherever we have a BRSCC live stream is wherever it travels, so you'll be able to see it on circuit whenever it's needed. So the field now just making its way through the infield section. One thing this will be helping, of course, is the fact that since the rain has long stopped, all the cars on circuit moving around will certainly be helping to dissipate and get rid of some of the water on the circuit, which means that they'll start to get drier and drier and a bit quicker and quicker. I anticipate that possibly we're going to get the pit window opening in about a minute's time, because I'm expecting when the clock ticks to 30 minutes to go, we're going to get a signal on the message from race control saying the pit window is open. So keep an eye on that, but also we'll see if it actually opens just as we're about to restart this race. So we might get a few drivers jumping in straight away to make their driver changes under green flag conditions. Others might want to get a couple more laps under their belt to get a bit of a pace going again, and we have to carry on. I think, given the fact that that's Jamie White's car being recovered back down to the paddock, and it's going to turn right in a second into the back of the pits, we should get racing hopefully back underway. The cars are just making their way, I think, through Brundle and Nelson at this point. And there's the unfortunate front-end damage to Jamie White's car as it turns back in on the back of the low loader. Everyone's just bunching up a little bit more here down towards the chicane. And I wonder if it's in anticipation of the safety car lights going out, which, as it goes past the picture, I can't really tell. They may or may not have done. The fact that David May is still quite close to the safety car suggests that maybe not quite just yet. our safety car's in this lap. So I've just seen it on the timing thing, and the pit window indeed has just opened. So this should be intriguing. We should get either some cars that will jump in straight away, and other cars that might leave it a few more laps before they come in towards the end of the pit window. So this will be quite a crucial restart for some drivers, and others might choose it to jump in and get out of the traffic. So the Jaguar XS Sport Brake safety car, lights are out, and now David May resumes the role of the safety car. He now chooses when he wants to go to get the race back underway again. So he now turns his way through Murray's. Might choose to go now on the acceleration zone exiting Murray's corner. Just back a bit more. Now he puts his foot down and goes for it. But Zachary Lucas and the Fiesta has gone with him too on the restart. Green flag is in the air, and after what was about just half a lap of racing or so before we went under safety car, we're back under racing again in Clubsport Trophy here at Snetterton. So across the line they all pour one after the other. And it is then Nissan from four Ford Fiestas, then the Honda Civic of Matt Higginson. Here goes Petter Jokinen battling away with Marco Ricci, and then the recovering Ollie Samways in the Toyota MR2 Super GT. There's Feroz Billamori in the Mini Cooper, the Heath and Roberts car with Michael Heath at the wheel in the Honda Civic. Now the Fiestas are going into combat here. The brilliant thing about the Fiestas is we've seen them 3 times this weekend in the Fiesta Championship, and now they're getting back to more scraps here amongst each other, whilst they're also fighting the May and Skeets car, which is run, ironically, by Jam Sport, which is a prominent Fiesta team. So very much a Fiesta theme at the beginning. Oh, that's big out of shape as soon as I speak about it. The May and Skeets 370Z all out of shape on the exit of the left-hander at Palmer's, and managed to gather it back up again. Great car control by David May. They do say that if the car's oversteering and sideways all everywhere, it's usually David May at the wheel. Now, I think also what's happened there is whether he's made contact with somebody, I don't know, but I have noticed that I think the bonnet's starting to lift up a bit towards the top where the windscreen is. I'm not quite sure. That shouldn't affect him in terms of pressure. In fact, the pressure should push that down rather than push it up again. But the 3 Fiestas that were chasing him have managed to make him crack under the pressure, and it's now Zach Lucas who leads the way from Alistair Kellett in second place, and it's then Stuart Robbins in third. So as they turn their way out through the right-hander, and yeah, look at the bonnet on David May's car. It is, yeah, it's poking up a little bit, isn't it? But that's just for cooling or just for aerodynamics. So we should remind you that the 3 Fiestas here are an invitation class, which means that even though they might finish ahead of the Nissan, they won't be classified as the winner of Club Sport. It will still be the David May and Martin Skeets car if he stays there by the end of the 45-minute race. First couple of the cars are in for their mandatory pit stops. There's one of them being the David Thomas car. As a change on for second place here between Stuart Robbins and Alistair Kellett. Robbins goes round the outside in the wet conditions and gets past Alistair Kellett. He's up to second place, trying to chase after Zachary Lucas here as he comes through the bomb hole. But yeah, pit stops happening in earnest then, so we can check out a couple of the cars that are a bit further back that have pitted. The other car that's in the pit lane is the Sheed and Edison BMW, so there must be a mandatory stop for them if it's in the pit window. I'm sure that if it's David Sheed at the wheel, Malcolm Edison will jump out. He will jump in instead. David Sheed will hand the car over to him. So out goes David Thomas. I just saw out of my commentary box window. There's more battle going on here. That's the Richard Daniels Lewis Judd Fiesta battling away with car number 40. And that is the Edward Prager BMW that's having a great one around the outside of both the Fiesta and indeed a Stuart Humphreys in that Mazda MX-5 Mark III. So I think he joked about the fact the car was a bit underpowered, but in wet conditions, it doesn't matter. He's been able to use it to full effect. 2 Toyota Celicas going into combat here, the 2 teammates. The black and green car, Stuart Donovan, the white and green car with the black bonnet. That is Rowan Lundy with the bigger rear wing on the back. I think it's scrap further back. This is the James Butcher number 14 Honda Civic battling with the Daniels and Judd Fiesta. Also there is Stuart Humphreys. And then we've got the Mini Cooper just behind them as well. I'll check out who that Mini Cooper is. I think it is... who's that? That's the Wyatt Mini Cooper. It's in 21st position at the moment. So the Edward Prager BMW is up to 17th overall. I mean, he's one of the biggest movers in the field, and he leads Class E at the moment now, so he could be in line for potentially a class victory if he carries on playing his cards right. So just to fill us in with where we are in terms of the classes, yes, in the invitation class, it is a Fiesta 1, 2, 3 with Lucas ahead of the Robinson Horrobin car, and then the Kellett's in third position. But for the 5 classes outside invitation, for Class A, still leading the race technically, the race on the whole for Clubsport Trophy in Class A is the May and Skeets Nissan 370Z. He leads that class from Ollie Samways in second place, and then the Newbold and Court Honda Integra DC5 Type R is back in third position. In Class B, that lead's now gone to Matt Higginson in the Honda Civic Type R, from Petter Jokinen in the Mini Cooper S, and then in third in class, is Vero Billamori in another Mini Cooper. Class C is a 1-2 for the Toyota Celica, Stuart Donovan ahead of Rowan Lundy. And third in class for Class C appears to be, if I can find them, there's quite a few. Are there only 2 in there? Or is that another couple in there? I think, yes, I think they are. So whatever Class C cars we have, they've, oh no, sorry, the David Thomas cars in there, right at the bottom of the table. So David Thomas and the Toyota MR2 is currently in third. So it's a Toyota 1-2-3. So any Toyota fans will be happy with Class C nonetheless. For Class D, it is at the moment, it's the, who's in Class D leads? So it's the Heath and Roberts Honda Civic leads that class. Second place is the Lewis Field Renault Clio, and third in that class is the Stuart Humphrey Mazda MX-5 Mark III. And then in Class E, it is the car that's on screen right now, Edward Prager in his BMW 116, and he leads that class from, in Class E, the Poulton and Mills Mini Cooper, and then in third place, Adcock and Waters in their BMW Compact Cup car. So all sorts going on here as the pit window opens. I imagine we might get quite an influx of cars coming in for their stops in a second, because you only had the 2 that came in. That was the David Thomas. Well, in fact, 3 have come in. Of course, we've had David Thomas, the Toby Hoxton Ford Fiesta ST180, and the Sheldon Edison BMW Compact. They're the only 3 that have come in. We should get some more pit stops as we come past the pits this time by. In the pit lane has come the first of the front-running cars is the Marco Ricci Fiesta. I think might be coming around next time by. There's Edward Prager having a great run so far around the outside of, who was he around the outside of? That was a Renault Clio, and it was Lewis Field's Renault Clio. He's past number 44 then. He's getting up to superbly 16th place. So again, remember, he started back way towards the back of the field, at roughly what should have been, I think, 31st position on the grid, but he's passed half the field already, which is pretty impressive. So great stuff from them. As we looked at 3 Fiestas on track, another one is in the pit lane for its mandatory stop. Also in the background appears to be, looks like that's a Mini, and also one of the Mazda X5. Stuart Humphreys is in the background, and I think that's possibly, is that maybe Wyatt in the background too as well? It's a Mini anyway. So who was behind Stuart Humphrey? It was a Mini. It's the Poulton and Mills Mini Cooper. So in the pit lane, I think that's Matt Mills, and taking over from him in car number 155 is going to be James Poulton. So Matt Mills started that car. James Poulton is going to jump in. So driver changes are plenty there. Any more pit stops as well? Let's have a look. The Adcock and Waters BMW is in. So that's the number 129 car in Class E. And the 129 has... That was... Find one more on timing sheet. So Andy Waters and Philip Adcock, and it was Adcock who started that car, so Andy Waters will jump in. Also in is the Stewart and Foster. So I think Foster was an addition to Mark Stewart's entry. So it's Mark Stewart handing over to his co-driver, Foster. And those pit stops continue in earnest. So those are the first 8 cars that are pitted, and I expect we'll get more on this next time around. As James Poulton Mini is just waiting to get the thumbs up from his crew to get underway. And again, none of the main front runners are pitted in just yet, so I'm just waiting for the mix. Hopefully we can have a look at some of the other cars in pit lane at some point whilst we're looking at the Mills and Poulton car. I'm sure there's a couple more that must be in the pit lane that we can have a look at, but the James Poulton Matt Mills car, I think we're looking at possibly the whole pit stop here. So James Poulton then is being killed for quite a while for this 2-minute stop, and he gets the signal for the countdown to head off, and away he goes. So we got the full pit stop there from that one. He heads out. Ooh, that's close. He almost made a bit of an unsafe release on Stuart Humphrey there. So getting out there. Also there was the Adcock and Waters car. Behind them, more cars are in the pit lane now. So we've got the Stewart and was it the Stewart and Foster car that came in as well. A couple more cars that have also pitted since then. Just behind them we've had Petty Jokinen in the Mini Cooper S, and also the Heath and Roberts Honda Civic in from the Class D lead. So Class D leader Heath and Roberts is in. There is Petty Jokinen with his pit stop underway. I think we're also expecting, in fact I recognise Steve Andrew there from the Mazda MX-5 paddock. We're expecting Lewis Field, I think, in the Renault Clio. There goes the BMW in the background. So that is Mark Stewart handing over to his co-driver Foster. And Pete's just sat there waiting for his pit stop to tick down. And back on the pit, back in the race. And there's the number 43 BMW, Stewart and Foster. So he's come out of the pit lane, finished his stop. So away he goes. He's actually rejoined just behind the Ebra Prager car. There behind Petty Yock, and there we can take a look is the Lewis Field Renault Clio. And more pit stops going on behind as well as they continue in earnest. I think that's another Fiesta in the background in the pits. That might be the Finn Sport car. It looks like the Finn Sport car in the background, I think. That would have been the names here. So we've got the Ricci Clark cars in the pit lane. So is also the Daniels and Judd Fiesta Mark IV. Mazda MX-5 Mark III of Lee Holland's also in, as also is the Butterworths, Craig and Gary Butterworth. And the Heaton Roberts car's also been in as well. So we've had getting near to almost kind of half the field have made their pit stops now. The top half are yet to do so. This is the Isett and Fullbrook Mini Clubman. And he's up the inside of, looks like Colin Newbold in the Honda Integra. I keep going to say Honda Civic. It's a Honda Integra Type R DC5 in the Spoon Sports livery. The blue front end and the yellow back end of this car. And he's now been chased down by James Butcher in his EP3 example Honda Civic Type R. They're battling for, I think, for position at the moment. Yes, that was a scrap for position for 12th, 13th and 14th overall between them. Right, now one of our leading Fiestas is in the invitation class. This is the Kellett. So Alistair Kellett has jumped out, and it's double ST150 class winning son William Kellett who's going to jump in for his first experience of one of these turbo Fiestas. And to do it in the wet conditions, I wouldn't blame him for being a little bit nervous. Also, I think looks like is that in the foreground. I think that is the Robinson Horobin car that's in as well. So Stuart Roberts will have jumped in. Simon Horobin will have been taking his place. After pit lane goes Richard Clark's Ford Fiesta. So he's back out again. So is Lewis Field. I can see in the background Matt Higginson's car's also in the Honda Civic Type R. A couple of the BMWs also in the background too. Out comes Lee Hollin in his white and green MX-5. It's got a sort of the old school 787B-esque style livery, but it's got different colours going on there. Rather than being orange and green, it's now white and green. They've got the Butterworths in their Renault Clio. Into the pit lane is going to come the Ollie Samways Toyota Celica, Toyota MR2 Super GT, and he's pitted from what would have been, I think that was second in class. I think he came in, where was he? Yeah, second in Class A, so he's making his mandatory pit stop. Local man, so I think it's the second of 4 races he's doing in a matter of weeks here at Snetterton, so certainly a circuit that he loves, and it's the second of 4 visits this year, so he was here last weekend doing other endurance racing, so you can see him in the mix. And all the main Skeets, Nissan 370Z just jumped out. Mark Skeets at the wheel, he jumped out just in front of the Fullbrook and Isett Mini Clubman, so a bit of a tricky release there. I think also there we saw there was one car pulled in, the other one was also being moved out. Some of the cars, of course, pulling it at a 45-degree angle for sort of safety reasons, to make sure they're not sort of double parked in the acceleration part of the pit lane. There's now William Kellett at the wheel of the number 52 Fiesta, having taken over from Alistair Kellett in his car. Change on with Isett and Fullbrook. So that's Kevin Fullbrook who's being strapped in. Keith Isett has jumped out. So it's now getting strapped back in. Out the pit lane in the background of my commentary box window, I've just seen Matt Higginson go out. So he's now back out on track. But there goes Dominic Bush's Fiesta in the background. It's now back on track. We see some more battles going on. This is now Justin Roberts at the wheel of the Honda Civic he shares with Michael Heath. He's having a scrap there with Foster in the second number 2 4040 BMW 116s with those huge rear wings on the back. And picking his way past both of them appears to be William Kellett in his Ford Fiesta ST180 as he turns his way up through Williams and into Oggie's. There is the number 17 Mini Cooper. That is of John Wyatt, the Mini Cooper S Turbo. We're just looking on there, Keith Isett just having a little final conversation, a little brief there with Kevin Fullbrook to let him know how the car is and what the conditions are like. And as we go look at there, we switch back to our battle here for on track between William Kellett and the Justin Roberts Honda Civic, and then the John Wyatt Mini Cooper S Turbo, as thanks to the turbo in the Fiesta, he blasts past both of them, and looks like Justin Roberts is in the tow, and we'll pull past him as well. Now then, the pit window is going to close in the next 15 seconds, so it means that both the 2 cars that are left to make their pit stops at the moment are the John Wyatt Mini Turbo, but also the Rowan Lundy Toyota Celica, and I suspect possibly, unless there was a rule that means so long as you pit on a lap that the window closes, that it means you might wait, unless that's not enforced, they might well possibly get a penalty for pitting a bit too late. But then again, they might argue that the lap time is that long that they have to try and accommodate within the mix. So Rowan Lundy, he's just gone. I thought he'd just gone through, but he hasn't actually. So Rowan Lundy, Zachary Lucas has gone through, has gone to the pit lane and made his pit stop. But what is interesting is that Rowan Lundy's gone through, but I don't think he stopped and made his mandatory pit stop. So I think he might be in trouble there for not pitting within the window, which has officially now closed. So has Wyatt now pitted from his pit stop window? I think he has now. Where is he on the time machine? Yes, he has. So John Wyatt into the pit lane for his mandatory pit stop. I'm not sure if he'll get a penalty for that or not, for pitting just outside it rather than being within it. If it's allowed to pit within the pit on the lap in which it closes, then he may well be okay. If not, he might have a time penalty coming his way for a late pit stop. So how it's all shaken out with the pit stops then, we're kind of ignoring Rowan Lundy for the time being here because he's still going to make that stop. I suspect he will get penalised for a late pit stop. So Rowan Lundy then, out of the equation, it means that Zachary Lucas in the invitation class leads the way on track at the moment, with the William Kellett car in second place. What this has done incredibly is, out of all of this, it's given the lead to the Class D Honda Civic of Justin Robertson and Michael Heath. So Michael Heath did pretty well to pit what he did, and the strategy's paid out perfectly. So I think that's looking good for them. I think after those pit stops, there have been several driver changes, so we can quickly hand down to Josh in the pit lane, as one of the drivers has jumped out after that first to see what they thought of the conditions here in this wet Clubsport Trophy race here at Snetterton.
Down in the pit lane with David May out the Nissan. A good start there, David.
Oh, wonderful start. Yeah, I thought I was going to bog down, but I just shuddered a bit, all the wheels spinning, and then it just bit way I went. I got it into the ML2, which I was worried about. I thought he was going to totally swallow me up on the start, but wonderful. And I just got 2-3 corners and thought, yeah, looked in the mirror, I'd see everything all over the place behind me, which was nice for me, not so good for them, I'm afraid. But and then with them Fiestas behind me, those STs, I thought, here we go. I knew I was never going to keep them for long, you know. But I'll back everything up round Flora, and then I'll try and out-drag them up the start straight. I've got more power than them, but they weigh half as much as I do, and I had a little bit. But yeah, no, it was good. It was snow up the curbs. Throw this away, you know, we've been good all weekend, you know, for the car we've got, with me and Mark have really worked hard to get the car up to this standard, so it's good.
There's not many racing 370Zs out there. You brought this one out this year, and you're getting better every time out there by the sound of it.
Well, I bought it believing it's a fully blown race car, but sadly, after we built the wrap off it, it's a road car. So we've got there, we've got some good companies, put us on the right direction, and now we're getting there. The car's got loads of potential. It's very heavy. We've got to get still got to get so much weight out of the car, but it's handling well now. It's going well. I love driving it, and it does look nice as well. So,
absolutely, it does. Well done on your
no, well, thank you very much. Thank you.
Hope the results are good. So that's David May out of the Nissan 370Z.
Thank you on that one, Josh. Yeah, good to hear from David May there. Of course, I'm sure was regaling of his slight fright there when he lost the back end of the Nissan, which currently now, look at the moment, is on course to, but has now just retaken the lead of the Clubsport Trophy Contingent, because, of course, remember, the invitation class cars aren't counted towards being the overall winner, even though they are in the mix, so they will be ahead on the road. But in terms of being the actual winner of the race, it'll be whoever's within classes A to E. So they are currently at the moment the Club Sport leaders, with the Heath and Roberts Honda Civic currently holding on to second place. The next car on the order is cars in the main class structure is the 8th place car overall, which is the Class B leading Matt Higginson Honda Civic Type R. And we'll go through Class E's in a second here for a moment. I have noticed also that I don't think Rowan Lundy's pitted yet, so the pit lane is closed, so his teammate's gone through just past me, but I think this might be a worry for Rowan Lundy. I think he might well be in a bit of a shock for getting a penalty for not pitting inside the pit window, because it could be a penalty for him on that one. So I think we're going to have another interview down in the pit lane. So whilst the leaders carry on, that's the current technical overall leader being Zachary Lucas. We head back down to the pit lane with Josh, who has another one of our drivers that's jumped out after his first stint earlier on today.
So I'm down with Mark Burton out on the BMW 116. It's probably one of the slowest cars in a straight line on the grid, but it looked like you were gaining some positions, particularly at the start.
Yeah, it was good fun. So this car, it's a bit of a development year this year. It's got 130 horsepower, so down the straights we're just left behind, but it's got a bit of aero on it, and it works so well. And in the wet, around the outside, that thing was almost unbeatable out there today. It was really good fun, really good fun.
And a very different type of racing to what you're used to with the low cost in the past.
Yeah, although there's a lot of things that carry over. It's a low power car with not a lot of grip, so carrying momentum, finding unusual lines and placing the car right for the next corner is really important. And it's similar in that thing because you can't get on the power and just drive your way out. So I learned a lot from low cost and I've carried it over to this and it seems to be working.
What were the track conditions like?
Horrible. It started off really well, although it was wet, a lot of grip, especially on like the outside karting line, but as it's drying up it's getting greasy and there's a lot of understeer. The front wheel drive cars are just going straight on. It's pretty bad, but it mixes it up. You know, we're normally last and we're midway through the pack, so it's interesting, although tricky to drive.
Well done on that, and good luck for the rest of the race.
Cheers, thank you.
So that's Mark Burton out of the, I think, number 40 BMW 116.
Thank you, Josh. Good to hear from one of our BMW 116 drivers in the mix there. I think that was Mark Stewart who was out there, one of the two BMW 116s with 40/40 Racing. Good to his experience of the race so far. I can tell you that the Rowan Lundy Toyota has finally pitted, but I suspect there is a penalty coming their way for pitting outside the window. So it does now it's all shaken out with just under 8.5 minutes to go. This is how it looks then. So the top two cars in the field are the first two invitation class Fiestas, that being Zachary Lucas and then William Kellett, who's taken over from his father Alistair in first and second on the road. The actual top club sport car is right there on the screen. That's the Mark Skeets driven Nissan 370Z that survived that hairy moment on the exit of Palmer's when it was battling with those three leading invitation class Fiestas. That leads essentially the Club Sport Trophy race. And it's then second place in the order for the Heath and Roberts Civic, still in second place overall. And then the Lundy Toyota Celica has got back out in third in the Club Sport Trophy contenders amongst the invitation cars. But I suspect with the penalty, it probably won't stay there. It will probably go, in fact, to the current Class B leading Matt Higginson Honda Civic Type R, which is there on screen there, just behind the Marco Ricci Fiesta. So the order, counting everyone, is Zachary Lucas, who leads in the invitation class Fiesta. Second in another invitation Fiesta is the Kellets, Alistair and William. May and Skeets who lead Class A, and then this Nissan 370Z. Robbins and Horrobin, who are third in invitation class in their ST180 Turbo Fiesta. Fifth overall and leading Class D is the Heath and Roberts Honda Civic. I think that's the highest the Class D car's ever been. I've never seen it that high in the order. The weather's obviously playing a part in terms of being a performance leveler, but good effort nonetheless from Heath and Roberts to get up as high as they are. Sixth overall and fourth invitation Fiesta is the Marco Ricci number 50 car. Currently at the moment, although I'm presuming a penalty, is going to be the Rowan Lundy Toyota Celica at the moment, seventh overall and top of Class C. Then it's 8th place overall and Class B leader for the Matt Higginson Honda Civic Type R. 9th is the 5th invitation class Fiesta with Dominic Bush at the wheel, and then it'll be in 10th position, and I suspect be inheriting the Class C, the win is going to be Stuart Donovan in his Toyota Celica, the teammate to Rowan Lundy, as that car sits in 10th position. And the rest of the order is the 11th and 12th place cars are the two minis in second and third in Class B. That'll be Petr Jokinen and Feroz Bilamoria. The Ollie Sandways car, after its early excursion at the beginning of the race, hasn't really recovered so much. It's back down in 13th place and second in Class A, so it's got not much it can really do from back down there. Not the race that Ollie was hoping for on home soil, but we'll be looking to try and rebound, I'm sure, the next time we see him out in the Club Sport Trophy. I'll give you the rest of the top 20, which is 14th place and 4th in class for the Sheldon Edison BMW, 15th place and 5th in class for the Richard Clark Ford Fiesta, 16th place and 3rd in Class A, apparently, for the I think that's quite right. That should be the Toby Hotston Ford Fiesta ST180, and that car, in fact, is actually in Class B, so that's not quite right on the timing screen. And it's Lewis Field in the Class second place Class D Renault Clio, 18th place for David Thomas. Good drive from him for the back of the grid into 18th place, and third in class in the Class C Toyota MR2 That it's 19th place with Daniels and Jones in their Mark IV Ford Fiesta, 6th in Class B, and then rounding up the top 20, 4th in Class A, apparently. I'm not sure if that's right, unless they power tested it, was number 81. And that's the Keith Isaac and Kevin Fulbrook Mini Clubman to round off the top 20 runners so far. And just also a note as well to Class E leader, which is Edward Prager in the car in number 40 BMW 116i, doing well from towards the back of the grid into being 23rd overall, after being as high at one point as about 16th or 17th place through the pit stops. So there is your Club Sport leader. And well, they've come close on many occasions in the first couple of rounds they've been involved in. Haven't quite managed it in the Nissan 370Z, but so far it's coming good for them. The quite unique car. You don't really see many 350s, 50Zs or 370Zs racing outside of kind of high levels of GT racing in the last previous seasons in places like Japan, but it's good that there's a slightly different, slightly more unique car on the grid, that being the Nissan, and certainly proving its worth here. Now it's going to come towards Murray's then with, I think, 2 laps to go. We've got 4 minutes and 10 seconds left on the clock here on the timing screen, so I think this lap they're going to start on one more. Top lap times at the moment are showing as being, particularly for our leader there, is 2 minutes 34 was the last lap. The best lap of the race so far for the main Skeets Nissan is 2 minutes 31.289. So yeah, 2 more laps easily in this one. 3 minutes 50 to go. So through Ricci it goes, with Mark at the wheel. Of course, David and Mark have been stalwarts of the BMW Compact Cup in recent years, but they've now jumped into something quite a bit different. Still rear-wheel drive, but with rather than a BMW engine at the front, it's got a thumping great big V6 in the front of this Nissan 370Z. Of course, looked after by Jam Sport. They've had quite a successful weekend this weekend. They've had a win in the Fiesta Championship, courtesy of team boss Jamie Going. They've also had 3 wins in the Fiesta Junior Championship, courtesy of Deegan Fairclough, who also still leads the points coming away from Snetterton. So not a bad weekend in Norfolk for the Jam Sport boys. Boys and girls, of course. It's both boys and girls as part of the team. So down into the Agostini hairpin for the second to last time goes the David May Mark Skeets car. And again, I can't fail to be impressed by the Heath and Roberts Honda Civic, which is still currently a moment. It's 5th overall, but it leads Class D by quite a margin. Looking at where the next Class D car is in the order, and that car is second in class, which is the Lewis Field Renault Clio. But compared to where Heath and Roberts are in 5th, it's Justin Roberts at the wheel. Compared to where he is in 5th in there, he's 13 places ahead of the next Class D car, which is the Lewis Field car. There it is. Impressive stuff from these guys. It's one of the best finishes ever. In fact, the best finish ever, I'm sure, for a Class D car and Clubsport Trophy. So they'll make a little bit of history today, which is nice to see. Now down the short straight towards the left-hander at Hamilton's it goes. It's being followed there by the Sam McKee and Darryl Roberts BMW. What car are they running in there? The McKee and Roberts, they are in McKee and Bennett, Darryl Bennett car. That's the BMW 36328i. That's come up quite well. That was at the lowest 31st at one point, and that was a bit of squeeze at the exit of the hairpin. Lee Holland gets around. He gets squeezed between, I think it was the Matt Higginson Honda, and I think also Marco Ricci's car as well. And Lee Holland just quickly adjusts his wing mirror. Right, back to work, and onto the road he goes again. So that's 3 into 1 on the exit of the corner. Wasn't really going to go. Now then, here comes Mark Skeets to start his last lap of the race, because they've got 1 minute and 30 on the clock to go. So it will be the last lap, not just of the race, but of the weekend here at Snetterton. It's been quite a mega summer festival race meeting from start to finish. We've had plenty of action from the Fiestas. What Fiestas haven't we had, really, with the STXRs, the Fiestas and the Fiesta Juniors. The Compact Cup's been brilliant. We had their 3 races, including the first ever 30-minute Compact Cup race. You had the Amok GT race earlier on, which was won by the Ross Millington Ferrari 488. Had a trio City Car Cup races, all won once again by Nick Ryandrad, still unbeaten so far in 2021. Of course, we've also had some excellent racing up and down the order from the Track Attack Race Club too, and their massive variety of cars in their pack as well. But to round off today's action, this 45-minute Club Sport Trophy race has had plenty of moments in here to be notable. And as Mark Skeets brings the 370Z down towards the Agostini hairpin for the last time, he's about to put a lap on Firoz Billamoria's Mini Cooper, which at the moment is running in, I think it's on a podium position in class. Whereas Billamoria is, whereabouts is he in the order? He's currently, yes, he's 3rd in Class B and 12th overall, so that's one to watch out for there. Of course, we should give a nod to the fact that we do have Zachary Lucas's car currently in the lead at the moment overall in the invitation category, and still the Kellett's in 2nd place, but this is the car that will take home the overall and Class winners and Class A winning trophy. Round the outside of the Mini, who should see him, but first Billamoria takes the racing line and then thinks, well, which way do you want me to go, Mark? Left or right? But finding the V6 grunt of the Nissan sends him past on the pit straight. And Billamoria slots in behind him, and they've come up to put a lap on, I think, just before the end, the Craig and Gary Butterworth Renault Clio. So up towards the checkered flag to at least take the win on the road. It's going to be Zachary Lucas, who wins invitation category, but it won't be the overall Clubsport Trophy victory. So he wins invitation class. And then next up with the Kellett's, who'll come past in 2nd place. There goes Stuart Donovan, who I think will win, I'm sure, Class C. I'm sure that Ryan Lundy will get a penalty for pitting outside the window, I would suspect. So if not, it will be a win for Lundy, and Stuart Donovan will be 2nd. It'll be a 1-2 for that team. Now we await our overall winner. Here he comes. He has put a lap on the Butterworths and the Renault Clio, and now he heads into the left-hander for the last time. They haven't had the best of luck in the Clubsport race. They've come close and tried again, but finally it's all going to come good for Mark Skeets and for David May. In the Nissan 370Z, they will charge the checkered flag, take Class A victory, and the overall win in the BRSCC Clubsport Trophy. Congratulations to the Nissan 370Z. May and Skeets do it here at Snetterton. Fantastic drive from start to finish. And then they come across third on the road, but they will take the overall win in Class A as well. The Robinson Horrobin cars come through in 4th position. We now wait for the Honda Civic to come past. Here comes Ollie Samways, who will come across in Class A. He finishes 2nd in Class A and 13th overall. But now we wait for, pretty sure, the drive of the race throughout the Clubsport Trophy. We wait for the Heath and Roberts Honda Civic. This is the Sheedon Edison BMW. Not quite the best of days for them in Clubsport, but they'll come back next time, I'm sure. And here comes up to the checkered flag. I think this is the Richard Clark Ford Fiesta. Yes, it is. That's the Finsport entered car. Across the line he goes. And we now wait for our Honda Civic to come past. Remember, this is essentially 2nd overall of non-invitation class cars. Here he comes. Think this is him. Yes, it is. Brilliant stuff. Class D victory and 2nd overall in Clubsport Trophy. Brilliant drive for Michael Heath and Justin Roberts. And then in the next car will come across 3rd overall and winner of Class B, we're expecting. It's going to be Matt Higginson in the Honda Civic Type R. Marco Ricci will come through 6th on the road there in that car. Here comes Matt Higginson, winner of Class C, Class B, in fact. Well done to him. And behind him was Rowan Lundy, who, again, I say, wins Class C at the moment, but I'm sure the fact he pitted quite late is he might well get a penalty for that and be dropped down the order, which I think makes me suspect why Stuart Donovan may well pick up that Class C victory instead. The Class E win, for our Class E winner, is he going to come across the line unless he hasn't already? Actually, no, it goes to Poulton and Mills. So Poulton and Mills took the lead on what looks like the last lap of the race. So Edward Prager loses the Class E victory on the last lap, it seems, and it goes to the Mini Cooper of James Poulton and Matt Mills. So they pick up the Class E victory in the Mini Cooper. And that was looking pretty strong for the BMWs. They looked well in the wet conditions, but to that point, it looks as though that the Mini Cooper was on a charge in the end, and it actually does go to a Mini in the end, which is, of course, being Poulton and Mills. So congratulations to James and Matt for that class victory. So the cars will head round back to the assembly area, and already we've got our overall and Class A race winners, David May and Mark Skeets in Parc Ferme. So we'll confirm the results, I think, after this race very quickly before we get underway for our final podium presentation to round off to this weekend's action. And there are the cars all forming up in a Parc Ferme after what's been another excellent race for the Clubsport Trophy to round off another superb BRSCC live race weekend. We hope you've all enjoyed it watching from home, and also those who've been around the circuit as well. But for the final time, we'll head down to Josh Barrett in the assembly area, who can have a chat to our class winners, including our overall winners for the first time in 2021, Nissan 370Z of Mark Skeets and David May.
So we've been given the mission to speak to all the Clubsport class winners. So we'll start with Class A, that's the easiest, because here is Mark Skeets. You took over from David and you got a class win.
Well, yeah, I mean, Dave did a cracking job, so he got us into the lead of the race. And then I think a couple of the invitational Fiestas got ahead of us, and but we weren't really racing them. So yeah, Dave got us in a decent position. So all I had to do was go out and not bin it off the track, really. So it was just basically going out there and trying to find where the grip was. There's some weird lines you've got to take, but if you find the grip, then it's not so bad.
I spoke to David earlier. This is a car in development, really, and it's getting quicker all the time.
It is, yeah. We're slowly but surely getting there with it. I mean, Dave's put a lot of money into it to make it work, and a few other little things we have to do, and then I think we're pretty much there. The killer with it, which isn't such an issue in the rain, is it's heavy. Yeah. And it probably helps a little bit. Yeah. Gets it on the ground.
When I first saw it, you don't actually realise a Nissan 376 is actually that big, do you?
Yeah, it is a big old bus. Yeah, no, definitely. And it's left-hand drive, which surprisingly only took half an hour to get used to, if I'm honest. Especially Dave put a sequential box in it, so that definitely helps. We've got that, and it makes it a lot easier to drive. But it's not a hard car to drive. It's roasting. It's absolutely boiling in there. I don't know, because that whole area where the engine is just full of engine. It's huge. But yeah, no, I'm chuffed to bits for that.
Well, congratulations, well done.
Thank you very much.
So let's see what other class winners we can see. The Michael Heath and Justin Roberts Civic is over here, who won Class D. So you, Michael or Justin? Justin, you're a Class D winner and well up overall as well.
Well, right, yeah, that's great news. I don't know where I was overall. Do you know where?
Inside the top 10 for sure.
Oh, right, that's brilliant. Yeah, that's great news. It's going to start in 19th. Yeah, it's the first time I've driven Snetterton in the wet, so really interesting. Yeah, some good driving out there, considering it was so atrocious. But yeah, hats off to all the lads. But I don't think we could live with them Fiestas on the rather sticky tyres. But it's what it is.
Well, congratulations to you. Let's see what other class winners we can find. I think the Mini here won Class E, which is James Poulton and Matt Mills. So, you, James?
Yeah.
James Poulton, Class E winner in the Mini. You're going to get past the BMW there towards the end.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Very pleased. Can't say. Yeah, very surprised as well, actually, to be honest. Mini likes the wet, as you can see.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, thank you very much.
What's it like to race one of the slower cars on the circuit?
It's probably easier in the wet. Yeah. The less power you've got, the more easy it is. It's just, you can't make a big mistake. That's what.
Well done on the class win. I can see our Class B winners over here. So we move back to the front of Parc Fermé, which was Matt Higginson in the Honda Civic, ex-sports car driver, now racing the tin-top Civic. Well, and I think the Class C winner's nearby as well, so that's going to be helpful. Matt, Class B win for you. Well done.
Yeah, scary that, but yeah, first lap I think I was 6th after about 3 corners from 13th. There was like parting the waves, people spinning off and crashing in front, but managed to negotiate it, and I think I was the leading car on semi-slick tyres here, so everyone else is on rain tyres, which is good for me, obviously.
And you telling me earlier about the car didn't qualify so well in the dry, but the wet conditions helped you up.
Yeah, we were debating. We got a new rear wing on. I thought it was just giving us too much downforce, so we took it off this afternoon, and then it obviously rained, so we put it back on. And it was a good decision because it was clearly helping in the wet and the slow conditions.
Well done on that. So.